So as we discussed yesterday, today around 1.5 hour, we are having a common class ACCA CMA student. But around 9 o'clock, ACCA student can leave and I will be teaching for CMA student their syllabus which is not relevant for ACCA students. Okay? And as we discussed yesterday only, maybe you didn't get the time to revise the stuff, to do the recordings, to prepare and all that. So I'm not going into yesterday things. I'm asking doubts or discussing that. No tension. That we can discuss on Tuesday. But then what I was discussing yesterday in the last half an hour, the theory of constraint throughput costing, that my objective is to complete. And if the time permits, then we will complete target costing also. If don't permit, no problem. So as I was discussing in the yesterday class, theory of constraint throughput, it's saying that only material is the variable cost. Then I discussed in the class why that labor is not a variable cost. That even though if we are paying to laborers per hour, per unit, but then in the short run, the payment to laborer in a month, in a quarter are generally more or less constant. Suppose in my case, there are employees, they are not paid per hour basis, they are paid monthly salary. So they are already fixed because that is salary. But there are manufacturing organizations, and in manufacturing organization, laborers are paid based on per hour, per unit production. But then the payment to the laborers during a month are more or less same. The incentive may be there for better work, but there is a minimum payment, minimum guaranteed payment, and generally the labor expenditures are not going to change in a short period. And based on labor, other expenditures may be dependent. So since labor is fixed, then the other expenditures are also fixed. So theory of constraint throughput says that contribution is only sales minus material cost. All other expenditures are operating expenses. You can say fixed operating expenses. So according to throughput, contribution is sales minus material cost, and all other expenditures, labor, overhead, everything are operating expenses. This is said by Goldratt in the year 95, 96, I don't remember. He developed this concept. And at the same time, he said that there is one more thing in theory of constraint. It is a theory of constraint. Constraint means limitations, restrictions on your activities. Whatever you want to do, whatever you want to produce, whatever you want to serve, you are not able to do that because of the limitations of resources. Limitations of resources means land, labor, capital, the general meaning. If an organization is producing products by labor, by machines, by space, by capital, it's not that all the resources they are fully utilizing. Out of the so many resources, one of the resources is there because of which they are not able to operate further, because of which they are not able to increase the production, because of which they are not able to increase their activity. The factor, the resource, because of which we are not able to increase our activity further, it's called bottleneck constraint. Like in my case, my training classes time is a bottleneck constraint. Staff can be arranged more, place can be arranged more, internet capacity can be increased and all that, software capacity. But the problem is my time. So in my organization, the bottleneck constraint is my time, my live classes timing. If I can teach more and more, then you can say that there can be more increase in the revenue. So the organization, if they will be able to identify which is the bottleneck constraint, because of which they are not able to increase their output, increase their activity, that bottleneck constraint is going to remain constraint or constant in the short period. The short period may be a month, maybe a quarter, maybe 6 months. In the short period, it is difficult to increase, to arrange more bottleneck constraint. So in the short period, we should never be wasting our bottleneck constraint. If I can say that I can teach 6 to 8 hours in a day, then I should never be wasting my 6 to 8 hours on any day. If a company has a bottleneck constraint machine hour, then they should never be wasting their machine hour even a single minute. Whatever the bottleneck constraint in any organization, they should never waste that bottleneck constraint. They should fully effectively utilize that bottleneck constraint. And in the bottleneck constraint, we should be producing that product which has maximum throughput contribution. Because in the short run, labor and other expenditures are fixed. They are not going to change. So your income will maximize when you generate more and more throughput contribution. Throughput contribution is sales minus material cost. Not all the variable cost, only material, because other costs are fixed. So if I am producing 2, 3, 4 types of products, then I need to analyze, I need to check that by using which product in the bottleneck constraint I am getting more income. Suppose in an organization bottleneck constraint is machine hour. So by utilizing one machine hour, which product is giving higher throughput contribution per machine hour? I said suppose there are 3 products in a company A, B, C. You know the sale price of all the 3 products. You know the material cost of all the 3 products. So you know the throughput contribution of all the 3 products. Suppose A has maximum throughput contribution, B and C has lower than A. But the bottleneck constraint, which is say machine hour, the utilization of machine hour in A is highest as compared to B and C. So we can't say that A is a better product because it is giving more throughput contribution. For that we need to analyze by using one machine hour which product is giving more throughput contribution. That means throughput contribution from each product divided by machine hour required to produce the product. So we will be getting per hour which one is a better product. We will associate ranking first, second, third, and we will utilize our machine hour based on the ranking. Then in that case our throughput contribution will be highest, and then in that case in the short run our income will be highest because all other expenditures are fixed. In some time, maybe 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, we want to overcome our bottleneck constraints. That means if machine hour is limited, we will arrange more machines. We will take on lease more machines. We will acquire bigger machine and all that. Then in that case, that machine hour was a bottleneck, but now it is not. Now there is something else because of which we cannot increase the production. Suppose presently we are having machine hour, based on that we can produce 1000 units. We arrange extra machines by 6 months. Now we can produce as per machines 2000 units. But there are laborers. Laborers are there for producing 1200 units only. So even though you have machine for 2000 units, but laborers is only for 1200 units. Now your bottleneck has changed from machine to labor hour. So the bottleneck will go on changing from one to another to another. You will go on removing the bottleneck in short period of time, in 6 months, 8 months, and you go on increasing your production capacity, your volume and income. If I will say that we have enough labor hour, enough machine, enough space, enough capital to satisfy whatever the demand is there in the market, then by increasing the resources we can't generate income. We need to create more demand in the market. We need to do marketing. We need to, you can say, make public know our products so that the demand will increase. So sometimes even the market demand can become bottleneck. The resources are not, the demand in the market. and that demand you need to increase by doing your business marketing activities, then in that case, that bottleneck can improve. So a business improvement is not a one-day process. It's a continuous process. The long-term target we will be able to achieve if we fix our short-term goals for 1 month, for 3 months, for 6 months, based on theory of constraints. We also say that since this theory of constraint is focusing on short-term targets, those short-term targets you will be able to achieve when you are efficient in your day-to-day operations. For that, we say that there is an application under throughput, TQM and JIT, total quality management and just-in-time inventory. Total quality management technically says that quality from beginning till the end. Quality looking at the requirement of the customers. Quality looking at our entire business operations and processes. Quality is not a one-man job. Quality is the job of responsibility for everybody who are engaged in the organization. Obviously, the motivation and the focus should be coming from the top management. Quality is not a one-day process. It's a continuous improvement process. That we say as a quality TQM in technical terms. But in practical term, मेरे को इस तरह से आप लोगों को पढ़ाना है कि फेल होने की गुंजाइश ना हो. आप लोगों को इस तरह से पढ़ना है कि फेल होने का क्वेश्चन दिमाग से निकल जाए. बिकॉज अगर फेल होंगे, अगर एग्जाम नहीं देंगे, अगर एग्जाम पास नहीं करेंगे, तो उसको दोबारा पढ़ने का जो एफर्ट्स है वो बहुत ज्यादा है, बहुत प्रॉब्लमेटिक है एज कंपेयर टू पहले बार ही चीजों को ठीक से करना. सो टोटल क्वालिटी फोकस ऑन डिफेक्ट्स, प्रॉब्लम्स, एरर्स should not be arising. And at the same time, whatever you achieve, you should never be satisfied. You should always think, dil mange more. More, much better. So it's a short-term process on a day-to-day basis, on a continuous basis, that we should be doing the things in the first way, the best possible way. So that nobody can question that I have not put my efforts, and the problem will not arise, that the defects, breakdown and all that will not arise. And whatever I am doing, I should never be satisfied. I should always think that even better each possible. The true theory of constraint saying that there is one constraint, you remove that, another constraint, that is a never-ending process. It's a continuous improvement process. And you will be able to remove constraint, reduce cost, increase profitability, increase productivity when you think short term. Because the short term targets are ultimately helping us to achieve long term targets. When we are thinking as short term, why we should keep inventory, JIT? Why we should produce something when there is no demand in the market? Why we are not able to understand what the customer is asking, what they want? So we should be producing based on the demand. We should not be producing for keeping in the inventory. We should be producing when the demand will be there. Pushing the system. When the demand arises, then the staff and others will work. Then they will produce. We will procure the resources, materials or everything when they are required. We will keep lower inventory levels. Lower finished goods, lower raw material, maybe zero inventory. We will versatile our staff. They can do different types of works. One person can do different types of jobs and responsibilities. We will be able to forecast demands properly so that we can work, we can arrange resources as per the requirement. So when we apply throughput accounting through theory of constraints, it is arising from the total quality management and JIT concepts. And if we achieve our short-term targets relating to cost, relating to productivity, relating to profitability, our long-term objective will automatically be achieved. We will be able to achieve the long-term targets automatically. So theory of constraint, maybe somebody can question that, sir, labor is not a fixed cost, it is a variable cost. As we were discussing yesterday, I also consider. But in the short run, payment to laborers are also fixed. So it is a short-term costing techniques which says about how to improve profitability, how to reduce cost, how to increase productivity, how to remove constraints, how to generate more income in the short period. That is about theory of constraints or throughput accounting. If we say numerical questions, there are two types. The numerical question may be one, which is asking you some ratio type of calculation, which are a technical type. The second, they are giving you details and they are asking you what will be the optimum product mix, what should be the quantity of different product or services which we are offering, what will be the maximum income and all that. The technical type of numerical question is calculating some ratios. So as per theory of constraint throughput accounting, there are three ratios. One ratio, return per factory hour. Second ratio, cost per factory hour. Third ratio, throughput accounting ratio. Throughput ratio. So first ratio, return per factory hour. What is return per factory hour? Throughput contribution divided by bottleneck resource. If we are producing ABCD 4 products, for every product sales minus material cost, sales minus material cost, throughput contribution. Suppose the bottleneck resource is machine hour. To produce 1 unit of a product A, whatever is the machine hour requirement, so throughput contribution divided by machine hour. So it is giving by using 1 machine hour, by using 1 unit of bottleneck resource, by using 1 machine hour, how much is our throughput contribution. That is called in technical language return per factory hour. It can be material, it can be labor, machine hour, whatever is the throughput constraint. The second ratio is cost per factory hour. Labor, overheads, all the operational expenditures divided by the total throughput available in a period. Suppose the total labor and other expenditures in a month is 5 lakh. And the throughput, say throughput bottleneck is say machine hour. Machine hour available in a month is 10,000 hour. So the cost per factory hour is 5 lakh divided by 10,000 hour. Okay, if we are working 1 hour, how much fixed expenditures we are incurring? Now you understand that if we work for more or less hours, the cost is going to remain constant. But we calculate in throughput even the fixed cost also, operating cost including labor, what is the cost per hour. And the throughput ratio is return per hour by cost per hour. Okay, in 1 hour, from product A, we are generating this much contribution. And in 1 hour, this is our cost. So 1 hour income from product A divided by 1 hour cost. Suppose from product A, 1 hour income is $20 and the cost per hour is $15. So 20 divided by 15 is called 1.33. That means when we are working 1 hour in the bottleneck, we are incurring a cost of $1. But when we are using that 1 bottleneck hour in product A, we are earning $1.33. In 1 hour bottleneck we are working. We are incurring $1.33 cost, but we are earning $1.33 income from product A. So the throughput ratio should be greater than 1. Because if it is less than 1, that means by working on that product, by utilizing your bottleneck in that product, you are incurring 1, but you are earning less than 1. Suppose in a product the throughput ratio is 0.8. So 0.8 means you are incurring in 1 hour $1, but you are earning only $0.8 from the product. Can we say that we should stop producing that product? No. Because the cost we have calculated per hour, which is 15, is fixed operating expenditures. Even though one of the product you will stop, then also the fixed cost is not going to be reduced. It is going to remain constant in the short run. So we are not saying that we should stop the product because the ratio is less than 1. But we need to take our target. We need to see that how can we make the ratio greater than 1. So greater than 1 means either the numerator need to increase or the denominator need to decrease. Then only it will be increasing. Numerator is what? Sales minus material cost, increase the sale price. reduce the material cost, use substitute material, use lesser material, reduce wastage. Or numerator is sales minus material cost divided by hour, bottleneck hour. So try to use less hour, try to produce more in 1 hour, increase your productivity. Or the denominator decrease. Denominator decrease is the total operating cost divided by the total bottleneck hour. The denominator decrease will be happening if the total operating cost reduces. We need to check where we are incurring extra expenditures that can be avoided, which are not creating value, which are not giving benefit to the customers. We can remove those expenditures. We can see that how can we increase the bottleneck resource available, because 5 lakh divided by 10,000 hour. If we make the resource 11,000, that means whatever wastages are happening, if we reduce, so the cost per factory hour goes down and the ratio will increase. We are not saying that for any product or any service, if the ratio is less than 1, we will stop, because the cost is not going to stop. But we need to target that the ratio should be greater than 1 for the different products. So relating to technical questions, calculations, this type of thing. And if a question is numerical but not so technical, they have given you 2-3 products detail, given the sale price, given the material expenditure, labor cost per unit, overhead per unit and all that. They are saying that this is the bottleneck. They are saying that these are the expenditures. And then they are asking, this is the resource available. Which product, how much quantity we should produce, what will be our maximum income. It's a straight cut process. For every product, sale price minus material cost. All other expenditure may be given per unit. Don't deduct, because it's a theory of constraint. Only material is a variable cost. Deduct material cost, you get contribution. Divide by the bottleneck resource to get contribution per unit. You can say return per factory hour. Rank on the basis of first, second, third, fourth. Based on the ranking, use the bottleneck resource in the products. So you will be getting the quantity of all the different products you will produce. In that quantity, what will be the total throughput contribution? And then deduct the entire fixed operating expenses, including labor and everything. You get the net income. So that's a process type question. Can come in the part C also, essay type also. Can come in part A and B also, multiple choice also, anywhere. And there are theory based questions which are tricky. Because till the time you don't understand the concept, you don't read 2-3 times the theory and all that, while doing the questions, not focusing on answer, but going into each option A, B, C, D, E, whatever is there, which one would be going logically correct and all that. If you don't apply that brain, then the theory you will not be able to manage. And these topics, alternate costing on modern management accounting, target costing, activity-based costing, theory of constraints, life cycle costing, environment management accounting, are theoretically very important for exam, more than the numericals, because I consider numericals are not so difficult here. In ABC, it's just some divide, multiply. Here it is further easier. And further, when you go target costing, even numericals are easy. So the problems will be arising in theoretical concepts, getting the concept ready. Then only you will be able to handle the theory questions. As I said yesterday, if there are 100 questions, I may be facing problem in 5 questions. After so much study, so much revision and all that, still I may find problem. So you understand that the theoretical portions in the objective type or writing theory on these areas is not simple. And the problem arises further that when we are studying, we are just focusing on numericals. We are not writing theory in our language. We are not focusing on theoretical objective type properly. So that also further creates a problem that when the topic is going on, we are not giving the full-hearted efforts. So in the end, when the exams will be there, these topics becomes further difficult. So when the classes are going on, when we are studying one by one, whether you attend the live class or not doesn't matter. But you need to be with the classes. You need to study regularly so that when you will revise, when you will do the mock papers, you are confident. Otherwise, the problem cannot be removed. Standard product costing, which we have done absorption costing, are associated with traditional manufacturing system, producing larger quantities of standard items. But nowadays there is generally no standardization in anything. You can say that I am teaching PM CMA part 1 for years. Again I am teaching. But it's not the same comma, full stop, same note, same everything I am teaching. It's all the things new. New example, new things, new notes, new, everything new. So I mean to say that standardization has gone. That you will produce in bulk, you will keep in stock, that theory is gone. Key features of companies operating in JIT and TQM. High level of automation. The goods are produced by artificial intelligence, robots and all that. Even in warehouse and everything, robots are working, human beings are required less and less. And what level the technology will take these things, nobody knows. High level of overheads and high level of direct labor cost. Low level. Matlab labor expenditures was very important, very high earlier. Now the automation overheads are more and more as compared to labor or any direct expenditures. Customized production. इस कस्टमर को ये चाहिए, उसको वो चाहिए, इसके लिए ये विशेषता, ये सब अलग अलग है. Customers are very demanding. Low stocks emphasize. जब customers का अलग, why you will keep inventory, why you will make and nobody will take. So you will keep low inventory. You will make the changes the way the market is changing. Recognition of the vital role of customers and suppliers. You can satisfy your customers when you can say connect your supplier and customers. All bigger organization with their ERP system connect with the suppliers and the customers together. Recognition of the need for continual improvement. It's not a one-day affair. It's a system where the continuous improvement is required. So the traditional system, producing in bulk and economies of scale bringing by producing in bulk, those days are gone. So the throughput accounting, the concept developed. The throughput accounting aims to make the best use of the scarce resources. The throughput contribution or throughput is called sales minus material cost. The aim of the throughput accounting is to maximize this measure, that means maximize throughput, while simultaneously reducing operating expenses. Labor expenditures or any other overhead expenditure we need to minimize. We need to check where we don't require to expend, where the value the customers are not getting. If we reduce inventory levels, there are so many expenditures. Inventory where we are keeping rent of that place, whatever amount we are blocking in inventory, interest of that amount, normal wear and tear, all these we will save. Those are fixed, but we will save. The goal is achieved by determining what factors prevent the throughput from being higher. That means bottleneck. This constraint is called a bottleneck. This is called a bottleneck. There may be a limited number of machine hour, labor hour or anything. In the short term, best use should be made of the bottleneck. Short run में bottleneck बढ़ेगा तो है नहीं. If the machine hour is in a day say 8 hours, I will have 8 hours only for some months. I need to check how I can use those 8 hours. This may result in some idle time in non-bottleneck. Maybe because of the bottleneck other resources are extra. My staff are extra. My place is extra. होगा. धीरे धीरे करके उसको यूज करेंगे या चेष्टा करिए कि जो एक्स्ट्रा उसको डिस्पोज कर दीजिए. Don't use that. Don't incur that cost. May result in a small amount of inventory being held or something. In the long term, the bottlenecks should be eliminated. In the long run, I need to arrange more hours. A new, more efficient machine may be purchased. However, this will generally result in another bottleneck. When you remove one bottleneck, another resource becomes bottleneck. So that's a never-ending process. The only totally variable cost in the short term is only raw material. Only raw material is the variable cost. All others are fixed. Direct labor costs are not variable in the short run. Many employees are salaried, and even if they are paid per unit per hour basis, usually they are paid guaranteed wages in a month. So given these assumptions, throughput is effectively same as contribution. Just that in a normal contribution, we deduct all the expenditures as variable. In throughput, we deduct only material. Goldratt and Cox described the process of identifying and taking steps to remove the constraints that restrict output as the theory of constraints. Identify the bottleneck, which one is your limited constraint. Identify how to exploit the bottleneck. That means this, suppose my tuition time is limited. How I will be using my time, which product, which course I should be teaching. Subordinate everything. All other resources I should arrange based on my tuition hour. Evaluate the system bottleneck. After regular intervals, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, check whether the bottleneck has changed. Whether I am able to arrange more hours, some other thing. Agar bottleneck has changed, start from the first process again. It's a never-ending process, continuous process. A manufacturing company uses 3 processes to make its product X and Y. X and Y, 2 products they are making by using 3 processes. The time available on the 3 processes is reduced because of the need for maintenance and breakdowns. Matlab, in all the processes there may be some maintenance required regularly. In all the processes there may be some breakdown. So the time available in each process is different. The table below details the process time per product and daily time available. In all the 3 processes, out of 24 hours in a day, how much hours available? And for producing X and Y, how much time you require in each process. For producing 1 unit of X, process 1, 1 hour, process 2, 0.75 hour, process 3, 1 hour. For producing 1 unit of Y, process 1.75 hour, process 2, 1 hour, process 3.5 hour. Daily demand of X and Y is 10 and 16 units. That means if we produce more than 10 and 16, nobody is there to take. You will say that, sir, extra bana lenge, to kal bhi to 10 or 16 ही demand hoga. Why you will produce more? This is your demand in the market for the products. Which of the following improve throughput? Select all that apply. Whatever is the option given, each forget. Now, whatever we are discussing, it is an application of that. We need to identify whether we have any bottleneck, whether we have limited resources in process 1 or process 2 or process 3 so that we cannot fulfill the demand. If we find that for fulfilling the demand, all 3 process hours which are available are more than enough, then there is no bottleneck resource we have. Then the problem is demand in the market. If 10 units and 16 units in a day, I can produce in all the 3 processes, because when I will do the processing in all the 3 processes, then only the product will complete. So if I can produce these units in all the 3 processes in a day, then there is no resource constraint. Then the problem is market demand. We need to do marketing so that the demand for the product will increase from 10 to 16. But if the 10 and 16 units which we want to produce in a day cannot be produced in any of the department, any of the process because of the limitations, then that becomes a bottleneck constraint. That becomes a bottleneck constraint. It may be possible that in not one process, even both that there out of 3, there are 2 processes where we cannot produce the desired quantity. Then both are bottleneck. Bottleneck is only one. How you will find out which one is bottleneck? I am coming. Suppose this question is there in the exam, or forget about exam. You are working somewhere as a management accountant, as an advisor. The information is like this, and you need to help the organization to take the right decision that given the resources, how much quantity of each product we need to produce by identifying the bottleneck resource and all that. That you need to do, or maybe in the exam also. So we will check first of all for fulfilling the demand of both the products in a day, how much hours is required in process 1, process 2, process 3 separately. So 10 units and 16 units of X and Y in process 1. In process 1, X will take 1 hour for 1 unit. So 10 unit will take 10 into 1, 10 hour. 16 units of Y will take 16 into 0.75. We need to produce both in a day. So in a day, if demand is 10 and 16, both we produce, then what is the total hour in process 1? 10 into 1 is 10. 16 into 0.75 is 12. So 10 plus 12 is 22 hours. And the hour available in process 1 is exactly 22 hours. That means it is not the resource or the constraint because of which I will not be able to produce. I will not be able to satisfy my demand. It is not the constraint. It is not a bottleneck. Whatever we have is exact. In process 2, 10 into 0.75, 7.5 hour, and 16 into 1, 16 hour. So 16 plus 7.5, 23.5 hour. But in process 2, we have 22 hours only. So whatever demand is there, we will not be able to produce because of the process 2. So process 2 is a constraint, but process 1 is not a constraint, because whatever you require you have, but whether process 2 is a bottleneck or not, coming. Process 3, 10 into 1, 10 hour, and 16 into 0.5, 8 hour. So 10 plus 8, 18 hour. And exactly we have 18 hour. So again, this is not a constraint. No question of bottleneck. So here by chance we are getting problem only in process 2. So when only one constraint is a constraint, that means that is the bottleneck constraint. Suppose in process 3 also we require 19 hour and we have 18 hour. And in process 2 we require 23.5 hour and we have 22 hour. So both are constraint. Then how we will say that which one is bottleneck constraint? अगर आप बोलोगे मान लीजिए मेरे को स्टूडेंट को पढ़ाना है, तो केवल मेरा ट्यूशन आवर का प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, स्टाफ की भी लिमिटेशंस है. ये नहीं कि हम 5000 स्टूडेंट को पढ़ा सकते हैं बाय द सेम स्टाफ. यानी कि एक्चुअली अगर हम बात करें तो रिसोर्सेस तो सारे ही लिमिटेड होते हैं. ऑल द रिसोर्सेस इन द वर्ल्ड आर लिमिटेड. कोई भी चीज अनगिनत नहीं है. फॉर दैट रीजन वी से रिसाइकलिंग, सस्टेनेबिलिटी, डोंट वेस्ट द रिसोर्सेस एंड ऑल दैट. लेकिन हमारे केस में मान लीजिए process 2, process 3 दोनों constraint है. Which one is bottleneck? You will check. In case of process 2, you require 23.5 and you have 22 hour. मतलब 22 आपके पास है और 23.5 चाहिए. You calculate the ratio. Requirement divided by availability. 23.5 divided by 22. Some ratio will, this is not called throughput accounting ratio. This is not throughput ratio. This is a separate ratio which is not technical, which is saying requirement divided by availability to find out which one is bottleneck constraint. So it is 23.5 divided by 22 will be giving you how much? Can anybody do in calculator? 23.5 divided by 22. 1.07. We are taking 2 decimal places. In process 3, it is by, hypothetically I am saying, 19 we require, 18 we have. So 19 divided by 18, how much? 19 divided by 18 is how much? .06. We will say even though both are constraint, but process 2 is a bottleneck constraint. Because you understand that when you produce both the product, then you will produce as per 22 hour of process 2 only. You don't have 23.5. So whatever quantity you will produce for both the products, that will utilize 22 hour of process 2, but that will not utilize 18 hour of process 3. Because in 18 hour, the requirement is 6% more. But in the 22 hour, the requirement is 7% more. So when you produce quantity of A and B, X and Y, then process 2 22 hour will finish, but process 3 may be 0.5 hour, 0.2 hour is still left. You don't want to waste process 3, but you don't have any other option. Because जब आपके पास process 2 का hour है ही नहीं, तो आप process 3 को use कैसे करोगे? मेरे पास staff है, who can serve 2000 students, but I am teaching 1000 students. यानी कि staff का resources तो मैं waste कर रहा हूं ना, लेकिन I cannot leave them. Because they are required for managing 1000 students. So for that reason, even though that is a resource constraint, but then that is not bottleneck. So bottleneck constraint is only one, where the requirement divided by availability is highest. That you will check when more than one is a constraint. In this example, we don't need to check, because in this example, 1 and 3 resource is not a constraint. We require 22 in 1. We have 22. We require 18 in 3. We have 18. So they are not problems for the time being to fulfill the demand. So the constraint is only one, which is 2, which is bottleneck. But if there are more than one constraint are there, requirement is greater than availability, then you will calculate the ratio, requirement by availability. Where it is coming highest, that becomes the bottleneck constraint. And we should produce everything based on bottleneck constraint. ये और ये चाहे बर्बाद हो जाए, बट ये बर्बाद नहीं होना चाहिए, बिकॉज इसी के कारण वी आर नॉट एबल टू प्रोड्यूस मोर. So if we waste this, that means we are wasting our important assets, important resources. So bottleneck constraints should be fully utilized. ऐसा गोल्ड रैट ने बोला कि ये शॉर्ट रन में ही होता है, लॉन्ग रन में नहीं, बिकॉज लॉन्ग रन में आप इसको इंप्रूव कर दोगे, आप प्रोसेस 2 में और रिसोर्सेस अरेंज कर लोगे और धीरे धीरे करके आप प्रोसेस 1 और 3 में यूज करने लग जाओगे, तो दूसरा बॉटलनेक बन जाएगा. और जिंदगी ऐसी ही है कि दुनिया में कभी ना कभी सेटिस्फाई नहीं होना है, ऑलवेज बेटर बेटर गुड मोर मोर मोर, दैट वे इट्स अ कंटिन्यूअस इंप्रूवमेंट प्रोसेस. सो दे आर सेइंग यहां पर हाउ कैन वी इंप्रूव, देयर आर 4 ऑप्शंस रिटन. व्हाट इज रिटन इन द आंसर, ऑल ऑफ द पॉसिबल सजेशन कुड इंप्रूव थ्रूपुट डिपेंडिंग अपॉन व्हाट द बॉटलनेक फैक्टर इज. Bottleneck can be said as limiting factor also. If none of the process are limited, then increasing demand would improve throughput. अगर सारे प्रोसेस अनलिमिटेड हैं, डिमांड उससे फुलफिल, तो डिमांड को बढ़ाना होगा. Once we have realized this, we need to find out if any process is limiting. This is a common calculation in PM exam, not in this chapter. When we see CVP and all that, decision making, सब जगह ये आते रहेगा. We need to calculate each process, how many hours required to produce 10 and 16 units of X and Y. So हमने निकाला प्रोसेस 1 में 22 आवर चाहिए, 22 है, बॉटलनेक नहीं है, कंस्ट्रेंट नहीं है. प्रोसेस 2 में हमें चाहिए 23.5, 22 है तो बॉटलनेक है. प्रोसेस 3 में हमें 18 आवर चाहिए, 18 है तो बॉटलनेक नहीं है. As the table shows, process 2 is a bottleneck, so we cannot produce 10 and 16 units because of process 2 hours. Therefore, increasing the efficiency of the maintenance routine in process 2 so that we can produce more, so that we can have more hours in process 2 will increase and therefore improve the throughput. Any of the other options will mean we are still limited in process 2. तो अगर I mean to say that even though we are saying that in process 1 total, लेकिन हम तो 10 और 16 बनाएंगे ही नहीं ना, बिकॉज 10 और 16 बनाने के लिए तो 23.5 आवर 2 में चाहिए, है ही नहीं. हम तो 22 आवर में ही बनाएंगे, तो 22 आवर में जितना बनाएंगे उसमें ये प्रोसेस 1 का और 3 का 22 और 18 आवर खत्म नहीं होएगा, बच जाएगा बिकॉज ऑफ दिस प्रोसेस. सो बॉटलनेक इज दिस. अभी मैं यहां पर ये नहीं बता सकता कि हम लोग दोनों में से कौन सा कितना बनाएंगे, फॉर दैट फर्दर डिटेल रिक्वायर, कि वी आर गेटिंग दैट प्रोसेस 2 रिसोर्स आर लिमिटेड. तो एक्स का 1 यूनिट बनाने से जो थ्रूपुट कंट्रीब्यूशन है दैट इज इन 0.75 आवर ऑफ प्रोसेस 2, और वाई का 1 यूनिट बनाने से जो थ्रूपुट कंट्रीब्यूशन है दैट इज इन 1 आवर ऑफ प्रोसेस 2. आई नीड टू फाइंड आउट by utilizing 1 unit of process 2 resource which one is a better product. Then I can say that which one I will be producing in what quantity so that I can maximize my income. वो यहां पर नहीं निकाल पा रहे हैं, वो दूसरे क्वेश्चन में निकालेंगे. So here the 4 options are given. Increasing the efficiency and maintenance of process 2. When you have more hours of process 2, then only you can generate income. This is the only option available in increasing the income. बिकॉज प्रोसेस 1 और 3 में प्रॉब्लम नहीं है और डिमांड की तो प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. डिमांड की प्रॉब्लम कब होती, जो प्रोसेस 2 में भी रिक्वायर लेस देन 22 आवर. तो हम लोग बोलते दिस इज द आंसर, वी नीड टू क्रिएट मोर डिमांड टू मैक्सिमाइज आवर इनकम. दिस इज एक्चुअली जस्ट एक्सप्लेनिंग यू हाउ कैन यू आइडेंटिफाई अ बॉटलनेक कंस्ट्रेंट. किस तरह से अ बॉटलनेक कंस्ट्रेंट पता लगाओगे. मैं यहां पर लिख देता हूं जस्ट नोट देकर. If suppose more than one resource is a constraint, just example, suppose in the above example process 2 we require, वो तो लिखा हुआ है, in the above example process 3 we require 19 hours. जस्ट ऐसे ही हम लोग लेट कर रहे हैं, एज्यूम कर रहे हैं, उसके लिए मेरे को डेटा चेंज करना होगा. आई एम नॉट चेंजिंग. सो प्रोसेस 2 requirement divided by availability. Requirement divided by availability. Requirement is 23.5. We have 22. So the ratio is coming 1.07. And process 3 is requirement 19 divided by availability 18. So it is coming 1.06. So process 2 will be the bottleneck. You understand that कि प्रोसेस 3 भी तो नहीं है हमारे पास, हम तो बना नहीं पाएंगे. लेकिन 22 और प्रोसेस 2 में जितना भी प्रोडक्ट हम बनाएंगे 10-16 तो बनेगा नहीं. व्हाटएवर, उतना बनाने से प्रोसेस 3 का 18 आवर खत्म नहीं होएगा. When we produce that much quantity, प्रोसेस 3 का 18 आवर में से कुछ बच जाएगा. यानी कि प्रोसेस 3 कंस्ट्रेंट होने के बावजूद वेस्ट होने वाला है, लेकिन प्रोसेस 2 वेस्ट नहीं करना है. So bottleneck is only one. It cannot be more than one. Bottleneck is only one. But constraints, problems की आपके पास रिसोर्स नहीं है, can be more than one. कंस्ट्रेंट्स तो प्रोसेस 2 और 3 दोनों है, दोनों का हमारे पास कमी है, लेकिन बॉटलनेक केवल 2 है, 3 नहीं है. This type of question I don't know whether come in the exam or not, but that is also a concept not written in your Kaplan, but that should also be there कि if you find a question or in the practical life आप theory of constraint लगा रहे हैं तो bottleneck एक ही होता है, दो नहीं होता है. दोनों प्रॉब्लम है, 3-3, 4-4 चीज प्रॉब्लम है, बिकॉज कमी तो सभी चीजों की है दुनिया में, लेकिन आपके लिए कमी एक ही चीज की होती है जिसके कारण आप और नहीं बना पाओगे. वो यहां पर प्रोसेस 2 है, प्रोसेस 3 नहीं है. अगर ऐसा सोचना कि हम दोनों में से कौन सा बनाएंगे, उसके लिए थोड़ा आगे और बढ़ने से समझ में आएगा, बिकॉज और एग्जाम्पल्स मैंने दिए हैं. विच वन टू प्रोड्यूस आगे आएगा. पहले some technical calculations, as I said, return per factory hour, throughput contribution by bottleneck resource, cost per factory hour, total factory cost by bottleneck resource, then ratio this by this, return per factory hour by cost per factory hour. This is called throughput accounting ratio. I would suggest that when the throughput accounting ratio greater than 1, we are earning greater than the cost, so we should produce that product. Less than 1, we should try to improve that. Improve कैसे करेंगे देखना पड़ेगा कि भाई सेल प्राइस बढ़ाएं, खर्चा गिराएं क्या. यू नीड टू गिव मी 2-3 minutes वॉशरूम, सॉरी 2-3 minutes ब्रेक, आई नीड टू गो. सॉरी.